Hi, everybody. It's me, Kaylee McMahon with Apartment Queen Investments, and this is class number 2 or course number 2 when it comes to scaling your business. So last time when we were going through a few things, it was just establishing the baseline for what do you want. And basically now we get to move into more of the particulars. We did already cover an OKR, objectives and key results. So you understood how that worked. Now this time we're going to cover more about the tools that we use. I mentioned last time we'd go over SOPs or standard operating procedures. So this time we will be doing that. And I will show you a cool tool to be able to do that yourself. Or you can have your team do it, whatever works better for you. So it just depends on who you have on your team. I know that when we're getting started, we don't always have all the people that we need, of course, to build our processes. So I'll show you both options. As I mentioned, sometimes as a startup, there are certain things you need to consider, like a budget, right? And so to know that budget, that's also something else we're not going to cover today. We have a whole nother course. If you go into our Apartment Queen database of our courses that we have, and a course that we cover is actually exit valuation. So that teaches you actually how to budget at a very basic level. What is a budget made of? But more so, how do you know what your exit valuation is going to look like? How do you figure out those numbers based on the market, and how do you then put that into, we use live plan to put that in there and to project what your exit's going to look like, when it's going to be built, based on what income stream, based on the market values of that income stream, and more. So we're not going to cover that today, but we're going to go over some of our SOPs and what we did to create those. That is something that is really important to us. And that means that you're in the process of scaling a business. So why do you do a standard operating procedure? So essentially, whenever you say hire someone or you partner with someone and you agree upon doing certain roles, well, how do each other know that what you're doing in that role is going to achieve a common goal, right? And so that's part of knowing profitability wise, mission, vision, values wise, where you're going. And then if that person, each individual person has a standard operating procedure for their role, there's always, of course, some C-suite positions where there's a lot of creativity and a lot of kind of like unknown of how you're going to build things. So you don't have SOPs for all of those types of roles. But I can show you in our business in multifamily what all we have built SOPs for. So that is where I'm going to screen share with you right here. Okay, so you can see right here on our screen what we have as our SOPs. So we have all these saved in Google Docs because they're living documents. And so each of those team members that have the ability to run that role or take responsibility for that role, as I showed you before last time, we went through core competencies like these, who's in charge of it, and when that's delivered or how many of that are delivered every month. And so that's basically what makes up the number of the KPI or key performance indicator. So for us, we noticed that one of our top line expense items was legal. So we created a legal SOP. A lot of the time in our business, what we do is we go tour deals, and we need to know if I was going to have someone like this morning. We had 2 people in North Carolina looking at some commercial storage units. So it's very similar to this because it's based on the value that's there, the financials, distress we see on the exterior, etc. So basically these tours are something that's a core competency of ours. And again, this is in multifamily real estate, so not everybody has these same competencies. Again, that we have a interview for the property manager. I just used that this week. And essentially what this does is figures out what they're comfortable doing and competent at, and then also gives them a list of homework to come back to you with whenever you're asking them to really dig into your property, and for them to be able to outline to you without you telling them what are your biggest problems that you're already having or could potentially run into, and then essentially setting up an action plan for each of those challenges. Because that PM or property manager company has to own that. They have to own those challenges. And of course, we can assist in certain things when it comes to legal battles, tax, anything that has to do with tax, for example. But whenever it comes to their day-to-day operations and what they do, like I can show you that in our SOP for the property management, for the asset manager. That's a great SOP to go into what we just built, because one of the things that they have to do is they have to time everything correctly with what it is that they are doing and what it is that the property manager is doing, because they work hand in hand. However, the property manager, they have a certain set of roles that they need to accomplish. Okay. So some of these we'll go to click on because they have other SOPs inside them. But for the most part, we're just going to cover what it is that our core competencies are that we had to build out. And so the thing is when you build these out, you're basically brain dumping. And so, for example, we use a service, and I'll bring you to it so you can see it. We have partnered with this service. And that's the logo you'll go after. I believe they're based in Texas, but they have a lot of Filipinas and Filipinos working with their company. So what I have partnered with them the most on, they will also help you find a virtual assistant or help you find an assistant that is someone that is overseas or offshore, as we call it. And you have a portal that, all your payments go into there and the individuals that you work with. Anyway, so they'll actually put together a group of individuals that you want to potentially interview to hire. And then as long as you have the standard operating procedure, a list of interview questions that you want to ask them. For us, it really has to do with the mission, vision, values, and it has to do with the skills that they already have and how comfortable they feel using certain tools. I want to really gauge what they say in person versus what's on paper. And then also just kind of how they operate. Is it more emotion related? Is it more data related, or kind of like me, where we focus a little bit more on quantitative understandings of things? So data driven, or someone that's more emotive, or in between. So anyway, Rocket Station is a place that we use to go to whenever it comes to, I have to create a process. And so what I'll do is, like, if you go over here to our processes, I forgot where I was here. Yep, our process is over here. So basically each of these, it took for me to take, for example, if I was going to do a tour SOP, I took the ladies that we have sent out on tours, and basically we barfed up everything on that hour-long session to that team. They transcribe you. They have two people there taking notes. They're asking you to take all the referenced links, data, any kind of document that you need, or detailed link that you need to get to, a picture of something, how to do it. They're going to ask after we finish that session for us to email that to them, and then they put it all together. And we do have to review all these one more time. And sometimes you have like 30 to 100 pages of SOP, standard operating procedure. But then once we correct it one time, it's done. And then the team that is assigned to that competency, so like, those on our team, Daniela, Kaylee, Erica, sometimes that are doing tours, we are the ones that also, when there's something that changes in the market or changes with our strategy, we're updating that process. Again, they're living documents. So we also have a SOP for variance commentary. So for example, we require our property managers to give us in writing answers as to when we have a variance in our budget. And so basically this is an example of what that commentary would look like typically. So if you have a budget, you have, again, a variance, which means you're in the red or green, green's up and red's down. The commentary, this is an example, like if the property manager asks you, like, well, what do you mean you want a variance, written out variance commentary? This is what I mean. Here's an example, copy it and do it every month until we have no variance. But point is, or we have no red variance. So then also we have a core competency of knowing, we have crowdfunding ads that we put out to the world. That's in our crowdfunding course in the same portal. We have a process document for investor relations. We have a team member that does that. So it's also kind of built in with her job title or job role, excuse me. So that's also something we'll cover in a minute. Asset manager is a huge, robust process that we had to build out, and still we are building out this process more and more and more as we go along. So I'm going to click on this one and show you one part of this, because this is related to several different roles. So in each SOP, what I do is I basically make it clear, if you came onto this role, what training do you need to have under your belt before this is going to make sense? What is the entire point of your role? What are you doing? Yeah, very well explained. And then essentially we break down into, once we know they're clear on what they're doing, then basically we have what you're supposed to deliver. So not only why you're doing it, but what you're supposed to be delivering. So we also have screenshots of certain books that we have read, that can explain, when I say I want a statement of this is what it looks like. So they're clear. And then also in this SOP, we're going through, I'm going to get you to the the asset manager decision tree, because it's involving the property manager and who does what on a regular basis. That's really important to know, because you want to establish this as part of that property manager SOP that I told you, but the asset manager would also have this in hand to know what she's doing. So these are the reports that need to be generated to investor relations. So again, they all work in tandem. So the asset manager needs to get reports to the investor relations person. Construction management needs to get information to the asset management person. The asset management person needs to get all of the details of what's going on the property to the investor relations person. Investor relations, of course, can feel free to reach out to the construction management team. But essentially, we're going to be working in tandem. So we have her goals here. And then also when it comes to your role, because asset management is so key to making sure these properties perform. Here are the KPIs that must be specific, measurable results, and time bound. So these are the results that the asset manager is responsible for every week to be able to give the team a palatable data quantitative example of where these are. So if we have the ability to have a business intelligence dashboard with the property management company, that's always ideal. There's only a few out there that do this, but what that means is that the software itself is going to keep track of all these. And if you tell your team, hey, these are the specific KPIs I want to track on the property, then they can basically put it into a chart or visual format that tracks specifically what you want to know about. Like what are our rehab tasks, rehab under bid tasks? How many of those do we have? Closed work orders by category. How many of those do we have? Prospect sources per month, prospects for the current month. How many month-to-month leases do we have? How many evictions do we have? You can track all that in a visual place. That's a lot of examples. Part of the biggest part of what the asset manager does going into a deal is the due diligence. So this is a long checklist that quantitatively goes through what a due diligence team would look for. A checklist, again, that you have to have on hand of all of the reports, exterior exams. So we are going through, I don't want to go through all of it, but essentially going into a deal, asset management needs to know what's going on with due diligence. Then we have a checklist, of course, because not only do we do a physical inspection of the asset, but we also do a lease audit, and we also do more than a lease audit, just seeing what's in the financials of the property, operating audit, really. So this goes through how to do all of this, and it takes a long time to do it. What we will spend per unit if we're hiring a due diligence company to help us to visualize the units, where limits of liability lay, with whom, a work plan. So basically, once we get through due diligence, we buy and close the property, then there's a takeover meeting, and there's onboarding of the entire project management company, project management team, asset management team, construction management team, property management. So everyone's got to be talking to each other. So these are tools that we basically put in place. We want to share all these things with them. So it outlines like how to do everything as an asset manager. And this is a very long process that we built. So again, setting up standards for the property management when they need to be giving us what kinds of reports, what we need to be checking diligently in our financials to make sure that we're clear that there's no fraud going on. Also, what is the most important metrics that we're watching every week whenever we're looking at the valuation of the property. I mean, like getting a pro forma is something that we have to produce, and then also the property manager does. We compare the two. I mean, it's just basically everything the asset manager does. So this is incredibly detailed. And again, we're building it out as we go. Oh, I was going to show you the decision tree. Sorry, there's so much in here. It's insanity, and we're not done. So I'm going to scroll down to the decision tree to show you, just so that you know, it's really important to have a very clear pathway to progress for each role, and also to see how the roles work together. So right here, so there's this thing we do, we copied it from somebody else, but it's hats. So basically, what is the property management company doing? So if you look in the top right-hand column over here, these are the things that the the asset manager only will do. And then in here, in this left bottom column here, these are the things that the property manager does. So you need to be clear with them that's what they're doing, and make sure that you as an asset manager are scrapping these things and delegating it to them. And then also same thing with the train, or the T column over here on the bottom right. Train, these are impactful, high value, offload, biggest gain in time management. So essentially, if the property manager wants to make a difference, this is what they'll focus on. But this is also something that goes to the PM. So I shouldn't be hiring or coaching any of the staff or team And there's lots of things like negotiating bills, etc., that the property manager needs to do. Leases, it's all down here. The biggest things that you need to focus on as an asset management group or team or person is that your federal tax management needs to have its own standard operating procedure, because that is the biggest savings apart from energy savings. So federal tax management or savings that can actually well, I won't get into the cost segregation, but there's things to do there. Then also making sure that you have a property tax management SOP. So we actually are also working with the taxes on the property. Then also your energy cost management, that is those, and then monitoring your NOI, net operating income biweekly. Those are the things that you have got to have on lock, because those are the biggest bottom line impact items that will happen throughout your time of hold, barring any major crisis. And then of course, value add. But you can see that, again, most of this has to do with tax and vendors, like high level vendors. Like if I'm hiring a public adjuster, for example, had to do that. Anything that's kind of outside of the day to day, laundry, vending machine, landscaping, those kind of contracts. We also, of course, with the property managers, we are making sure that we're looking frequently. We're doing continuing education as a team, that so is our property management company. And then so basically, I'm not going to read all of them to you, but in this, only the asset manager does column. Number one, they're going to work with brokers. We're going to 2, work with bankers. They're going to 3, work with property managers. They're going to 4, work with vendors. And again, this has to do with the larger vendors, not every little bill that the property has. So that is the deepest I'm going to go into this SOP, but that's one of our most important ones, is asset management. And then also we want to make sure that if you're in multifamily real estate, that you've got a SOP for your events. If you are putting on events, we also have one for accounting. So if we're doing a financial review, a financial audit, if we are going to be looking at a property level financials, we want to make sure that we have an accounting SOP for those. One of the biggest things that we also do is underwriting. So that's a big SOP for us. And that was a hard one to build out. And you have to keep updating it, of course, as the market changes. But we also put timestamp dates on there so we know what we did last. Construction management. Another huge important SOP. That guy, lady, talks to asset management. And basically, that person in construction management handles all the contractors. For us, again, we sometimes go into a refinance. We wanted to make sure that we had a refinance, or when it comes to originating a loan and predicting the pro forma. I can't click on this whole description, but essentially when it comes to originating a loan, we want to make sure that we essentially hand the lender a packet of what we have as a team. And we don't spend, there's usually about a month of back and forth of just getting documents from all the team members with the loan brokers. Sometimes I've dealt with a loan broker, specifically just because that's their job, is to bother all of us for about a month and get all the information. But if our team basically knows what we need to be turning in day one and there's a checklist, then we know once we have that all together, that if we go to a direct to lender, like for example, we have one with CBRE, if we go direct to the lender, instead of doing a broker, we save money on the fees. And then also, instead of having a 3-month minimum turnaround time for a loan, sometimes we've gotten it done in as little as a month. So SOPs are awesome. And this way the whole team knows what to do, and you can add, because it's Google Sheets, multiple users, and then they can, for example, if they're checking off the checklist, you can use different colors and you can see who did it, or assign it to somebody also in Google Sheets, and they can update it real time. So for us, we have marketing, and sometimes we have an admin that takes care of the marketing. And so this was an SOP for that person. Also, when it comes to value add, where are all these ideas of what we can possibly do to the property that we do over and over and over again that will lead us to be able to have value added to the property? So if you're going into a property and trying to figure out, how do I make more money off this deal? It's a whole list of ideas that we put together. So for example, we have events, but the events have an objective. So after the events, when we hold them, then we go over our event objectives, and you can look at this before, of course, and see how we're doing with our event objectives. And we do track this in a thing called DataBox right here, which I'll log into. But essentially, DataBox is a way that you can have a business intelligence dashboard and display all of this information. So if I'm going here, your objectives, it will tell you your KPIs for the event. For example, the number of ticket sales, the value of the ticket sales, the number of people who actually showed up, the number of ads that went out for the event, the number of clicks that we got 30 days before. There are a million different things that you can put in place for your KPIs, but essentially we have that in our objective tracker, and then we put that uploaded it into here where we have a data board. So for example, you can see here are our KPIs of what we're tracking. Go back. So if we're tracking our loans by stage, we're tracking our CRM is active a campaign. If we're tracking our overall KPIs, there's certain things it's kind of small, but anyway, point is all these are digitalized because they are tracked inside our CRM, and then they're put into a business intelligence dashboard so we can all see them all at once. So we have a process document for acquisitions. We have a process document for onboarding a new team member. We have one for if we're using HubSpot for our CRM, we're no longer doing that. So we need to update this with our active campaign SOP. Then also our marketing and EA. So again, if we have a marketing admin, I guess they have two processes. Onboarding, deals management. So whenever you are managing a deal, what are you doing all the time to make sure that it's running smoothly? So if you have a follow-up process for your team that they're looking to talk to investors. So we have one of those for not under contracts. We have all these scripts that we've created if you're wanting to do calls, for example. We have a process document for our acquisitions role. We have a voicemail script as well for under contract and not under contract, because under contract means that we're raising funds, and not under contract means we're touching base with investors to see what they need and where they're at with their decision tree on what they would invest in. And then also we have, I already did that one. We have a turnaround process. This is something where if you run into an asset that is either you're acquiring that's really scary, or like there's a million things wrong with it, or if you're in a deal and a million things start going wrong with it, how to pump the brakes, go through all the systems of the company and figure out where the top priorities need to be, prioritizing them, visualizing them, assigning people to them, putting dates in place, and being able to have consistent meetings until you have your plan executed all the way through for each issue. So it can be very overwhelming, but if you have a plan, this kind of outlines how we do that. And actually we use a Trello board and we just copy it over and over again, because this has happened a couple times. We buy some pretty crappy stuff. So when you get into a scary situation, you got to keep track of all of your audio recordings, your documents, everything in one place. And so not only are you doing that, but also you need to know how to build out normal things that you need to go through whenever you are turning around an asset. That's a big one. That's a whole book I read condensed into one SOP. Most of that is what this is. Like an asset management one is 4 books, and we're still going, with more. So process document. So if we have an executive assistant, they have a task list that they need to go through for their SOP. Also, we have a magazine that we create, and so this is an SOP of how to put that together. When we have a Dropbox account that we're wanting to clean up, how do we do that? That's an SOP for that. Let's see, we have, if we're going into a student housing project, what does the SOP have, how to underwrite that puppy, because it's a little bit different than normal. So when you're new to the team, this is onboarding as well, tools that you'll need when you're new. So this is all in one folder, a couple of these SOPs for when you're new. Also, if you're negotiating seller carry, this is a document that explains how to basically negotiate seller carry and get what you need out of it and talk the seller into doing that. Let's see, building an evergreen funnel. So it's something that we wanted to do as a team, being able to create something that we make one time, we put out into the universe, and then basically it just keeps providing the content to the people without us getting involved. If we're putting together YouTube ads, this is how to do that and making them rank. If we're doing a 30-day raise, this is something all of our fundraising team does. So basically this is using social media to call out to the universe how much money you're going to raise, putting a time frame on it and how to execute this. If you're doing a deal, so this has to do with going from acquisition. This is basically how we go hunt for deals, underwrite, like the whole process of acquiring, managing, disposing of assets. And then I think we've gone through most of, not all of our SOPs. So we want to go through SOPs. We talked about KPIs a little bit. So KPIs are different for every team, right? So what we did, if I'll take you over here real quick, we put together, and we have this for the new people that are getting onboarded. This was our team at one point. So we put together an org chart of everybody on the team and what they did essentially. So, and we also knew who talked to who. So for example, we had someone over construction management. So they would talk to the general contracting team. They talk to the property management team. They do the work somewhat themselves. We had a CFO that would deal with investor relations, because obviously investor relations pays and communicates with investors. And then we had an actual platform that would do the work of all of the documentation to the investors. And so all those had to talk to each other. Anyway, so and an acquisitions team and a marketing team. So essentially this is for us to communicate to our team who is doing what. And then if we go back to where this came from, this comes from a board of onboarding as part of a new team member, where to go, what our policies are, mission, vision, values, all that good stuff. So each of those people in that process that I was just showing you, I think I might have lost it. No. Right here. So what we do is, if you're here looking for the team structure, you want to understand where it is that you fall in amongst everybody else. So again, right here, this goes through how you fit. Or sorry. Who does what? So on your first day, this would be where you go. So we also have listed in here your SOPs per each job role. So when I'm going over here, the SOPs also list out all of your KPIs in them. So, or not SOPs, your job description lists out all of your KPIs in them. So for example, for us, we had an assistant, we had a conference and event manager, we had a CFO, we had a founder, we have an integrator, marketing and reporting, graphics, investor relations, acquisitions, fundraising, underwriting, analysis, asset management, property management, construction management, legal, and then probably some others. So if I'm going to look at, I'll just pick one, I don't know, KPIs. So KPIs, or key performance indicators, would tell me what does it look like when that role has success, and it's got to have a quantitative thing attached to it, a quantitative measure, right? So if I go through our CFOs, she had these marketing Mondays. This was a team effort that she had to turn in every Monday. So if she got 4 a month, then she was at 100% of that KPI. Schedule annual performance, so quarterly, so 4 times a year. So if she hit 4 times as was scheduled, she hit it. She always did. Number of communications with the team, not in email. So basically they would get dinged every time they would email me or email back and forth. We have communication tools for that. And I have external people emailing me. Basically she did, she tracked the number of money that was raised per webinar. And then we had a goal per webinar, lowering our costs with the same flow. That was part of hers. The number of dollars raised per team member per deal, she tracked that. Number of apartment purchases and sales per year. She was also tracking the amount of grant and award money that we were applying for and getting access to weekly. Also, her job was to prove up the percentage of savings year over year for taxes. And then also track the amount of, so basically you can see that each person has something that they're doing that is related to their role. That was the CFO, and that it has a number or quantitative measure of how much of that they're doing. So success for her looked like saving for taxes, for example. And so the percentage of savings for taxes year over year. So we had this on another form, sorry. So her job was to save for taxes every year. That's success. But the higher the percentage over year over year was basically bonusable for her. And then also it was a measure of the amount of success she had. So basically these KPIs are also being tracked in a couple places, and again reported over here on the KPI dashboard. So I don't know if you can see this, but you can see the grants in the pipeline. You can see how that was working for her the number of event registrations that actually invested. That's what this KPI was for. It's not pulling up right now. But you could track like financial data for her to see, out of those that are actually those grants that we were applying for or loans, how much money are we getting out of it? Or for example, how many events that we're having and how many attendees that are coming to the events, how many of those attendees actually invest and how much do they invest? Our funds raised, this is our investor relations, but hard raise versus soft commit. So about half is our conversion rate. So basically we are tracking these KPIs in a dashboard so that we can see them. So I just wanted to cover key performance indicators. And again, it's not a task. It is your job is to have 16 calls a week. And if you hit 16 calls a week, you're at 100%. And if you get to 200% of your calls, then we'll give you a $100 bonus. You always want to make it clear to whoever's working with you what success looks like, what number and how many times and on what date or time range that they would be able to hit that, they'd be able to win basically, and then make it clear to them with bonus structures afterwards. Okay, well, when you meet 100% of your KPIs or these 5 KPIs, then we're able to actually bonus you this amount, right? So it's very clear how they are going to make money. And so it's motivating that way. All right, so let's go over a CRM. You always have to have a place to track your projects and to also track your CRM or customer relationship management. So I showed you Trello earlier, and I've showed you this last time, that this is our project management. So what this means, to define the two, is basically for your project management, you would say, okay, all these SOPs that we have, core competencies. So we have a competency for events. We have a competency for our ads. We have a competency for our conferences and, well, I already said events. We have a board to track our grants and awards. We have a board to track our acquisitions or purchases, our money raised. So basically, each of these is a process. So for example, when I go into the money raise, this is going to give you all the tools that you need to do the fundraising, all the templates, all of the places and people that you reach out to do so, what your portals look like, how to pitch, who to reach out to go be able to pitch, your investor relations SOP, because the person fundraising is usually investor relations. So all the resources that you need for the project of doing this is in here. However, when it comes to have, for example, you have an investor lead, their KPI is having 20 calls per week with your investors. So if they're doing that and that is their KPI, how are they tracking the lead flow on all of these leads? They're not doing it in your project management. This is once you have a project. So for example, if we buy a property and it's a business and it becomes a management play for that property, then once we close on it, it comes in here. So we have another process for this. And then when it's a lead, then basically you're in here. That gets us in. Okay, so that'll get us into our CRM customer management. So we've already discussed where we keep all of our projects. I'm going to show you what I mean by projects. So this is this team, right? So if we have a separate team, so this is our internal team that deals with all of our projects within our Apartment Queen company. So the Apartment Queen company does a couple things. We have education. We also have assets that we purchase and manage. We also have some coaching programs as well, and then some summits and other events that we manage. So if we're going to talk about our workspaces, that's the Apartment Queen's workspace. Now we have other businesses, like we focus on just the asset management. We focus on this, our warehousing company. We have an AI company. We have a real estate brokerage company, yada, yada. So asset management is another good place to put, once we close on a project, we have the different apartments or different businesses under that one business umbrella that we're managing in here. And so, for example, you can see once we do that, we have a column for everything that we're dealing with. So it always starts over here, actually, where we are going through. Let's get started. Under contract, our attorneys, due diligence, fundraising, broker stages, lenders, capital, title, buyer, blah, 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 all the way through closing. And then I move those over here and then go back over here to managing it. So we're dealing with management, takeover, our issues, our weekly responsible items, who is each team that is responsible for each task. They all have tasks that are due and that we're working on. So anyway, each person has a role. So we have maintenance, we have asset management, we have on-site payments that need to be made by our CFO, an asset management team, on-site team. We have weekly meetings. We go over, again, our issues, and takeover is a one-time thing, but a lot of our documents that we hand over, like our CapEx policies or some other policies, to the property manager, like usually will go there so that they know that that's where they can find that from there forward. So anyway, going over, there's a difference between our project management software, which is once we have a project to work on, versus our lead generating and our lead tracking system. So we use ActiveCampaign, and this is something that, look, I've used MailChimp, I've used Podio, I've used a whole bunch of other CRMs, and they either stink or you outgrow them. Or here's another big thing, is that you end up having, like we did, 10 different softwares. And then if you have ActiveCampaign, really it just takes like your forms, your automations, it takes your funnels, it takes your like I mentioned earlier, your pipelines here, where you can track different pipelines of leads. You can take your website creations, and then also, again, like I said, your forms. You can do text messaging in here. You can, again, send out all your campaigns. So I don't need MailChimp anymore. And you can tag and do all that fun stuff in here, get out all your contacts. So we really like this for being able to look at all of our leads. So when you're saying like lead sources, like what am I talking about? So for our business, if we're going to close on something that makes money, we have to have leads come in. They have to have stages. People are assigned to those stages, and they basically baby the people through until they close. So for us, we have a capital raise, and that is one of our biggest and most and oldest lead sources that we deal with. And so you can see right here, if we're doing that, this is how we track the different stages. And we assign, and then also we put our, so if we're purchasing an apartment, so there's going to be leads for apartments coming in. It's another pipeline, also a grant loan tracker. So we are doing grants and loans. And so we're tracking, what are in the application phases, what are awarded, et cetera, who's assigned, dates and all that. And then our investor capital raise, investor leads, I already did that. If we have people that are moving from our programs over into being Shevesters, we track them there like that. So we have a whole bunch of affiliate programs that we work with that provide education from basic financial accounting all the way up till paying your debt off, and then basically getting into wholesaling when it comes to asset management, buying apartments. We have all these programs, to get you ready to become an investor in apartments and big assets and big deals. So we also want to track those leads, because the dollar value of each lead for us, our goal is to create $1 billion invested by foreign with women by 2030. So that's how we track them. So essentially, when those leads come in and they purchase a program, and then they eventually get to the status where they have invested that we're tracking here, it would be tracked here, but it's not working today, where essentially based on a certain event and the dollar value, we're tracking the number of dollars invested from the events. So I can get out of here. And going back to here. So, and then also for us, we were having a big event, a big conference, which essentially is its own company. So leads and advertisers and affiliates and sponsors and speakers and all the different pipelines of people that were signed up. I had a pipeline for that as well. So I really love ActiveCampaign, because also here's the thing I can't show you right now, but if I go into campaigns and I create a new email, I have all these templates I moved over from MailChimp and saved. But if I have one of these, essentially, if I choose to continue on this and go to send it, also what will happen is there's 3 different spam blockers or spam or 3 different check boxes that essentially, if you register your account and you set it up with a Google email domain and a couple of other things, you will never, ever, ever have your emails marked as spam. And that was another huge thing that caused a problem with us with MailChimp. We had over 22,000, we had less than that at the time with MailChimp, investor contacts in our software. And so for us, if we only had 20% conversion, it was a total waste of paying every month for this number of investors that were in our database. Also with MailChimp, we outgrew it to where the packages no longer made sense. So really it just didn't make sense. And there's some other softwares like this that replaced it. Automations are also great. So this is something that is also in MailChimp, but it's over here now in ActiveCampaign for us. So there are triggers that we have based on the campaign that you open, based on what you do, where we have different automations set up for you. And then also, like I mentioned, tracking your deals. And then reports are my favorite. I don't know if this is going to work right now. But essentially, so there's campaign reports. I really like deal reports. So like a funnel. I can look at, I don't know, apartment purchase leads. Let's see how good we're doing here. So essentially we had 8 calls in apartment purchase leads. And then we got 3 in-person meetings. And then we had no postcards sent out. So essentially our 8 calls, 3 meetings got us 1 new lead. These need to be amended. There's actually 0 here, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. But so we need to obviously do more calls. If 8 calls is getting us to have 0 deals that are actually to the offer stage, then we need to adjust. So it's good to have these reports, and there's other reports as well, like task overview. Let's see if this will work. I don't know. Well, sometimes it doesn't. But essentially, if I wanted to see all my tasks, yeah, it worked today. Good. So if I want to see all my tasks and all users in the last 30 days, I usually do 1 week. But there's certain tasks that we've done, and you can see that what we're seeing is there's 15 tasks, 2 of them were completed. And I know that's the reason we're doing that is because this used to not work, and so we couldn't see those that were not complete. Anyway, overdue tasks and then open tasks. And then also you can see them by the task type. So when you're looking at your funnel, if you have your tasks not being completed, right, and then obviously your conversions are down, you can look at the task types and we can say, well, maybe, our biggest one, our calls are not working. Maybe we need to switch to in-person meeting because that's what's actually working. So basically figuring out the status of what's working and what's not. So that is basically talking about a CRM, and comparing a CRM to a project management software like Trello is what we use. And then being able to look at all of those reporting metrics like this, that is also hooked. ActiveCampaign is hooked up here, in DataBox. So you can see based on active campaigns, we have a whole dashboard actually for AC. Right here, you can see total number of deals, total number of value, bounced contacts, unsubscribed, the amount that we had per month, deals at 1 amount. You can track all of your things in many different softwares. And also DataBox has, it's an overseas company, so it kind of stinks, but if you need a certain metric added in here, or like you need an API added from another program, they can help you do that. So we really do like that. So one thing I do want to talk about while we have some more time is the method of getting your know, like, and trust triangle to happen for you. So when people know and they like and they trust you, draw this in a triangle and they're all connected, then they will either invest with you if you're us, or they'll buy from you. So let me tell you how in the heck you're going to get yourself out there, because also if they don't know you, then they can't buy from you and they can't work with you. So there are only in the world, it's not a mystery, 18 traction channels. And what that means is if you're wanting to figure out how do I get in front of my ideal audience and how do I get people to like, know, and trust me, you have to find the best places that your message resonates with your audience. So your message, especially if mission driven and important to you, you craft your copy or your ad copy and all of the things that you're going to be putting out there on the internet, in emails, in your footers, in your letters that go out to investors. If you have a common purpose and a brand that you stay consistent with, it becomes clear. And not all of these traction channels will work for everybody, right? Like we had to test out most of them and then realize there were 2 of them that worked really well for us. So I stopped testing. Some people are going to have to test out a little bit of all. So we'll go through know, like, and trust tree here. And then the traction channels, but also what is the lean and bullseye method that you can use to basically, as a new startup, do this on a budget, right? Here's you're going, oh my gosh, how can I do all these? So here's the 18 traction channels. And I, again, am going to be providing this information in our portal. So these templates are going to be available for you. No problem. So even the KPIs and the SOPs and the CRM, OKR, etc. So I'm adding these so that I know to put them in the portal for you as tools. So unconventional PR, so it's doing something weird to get attention, like stunts, SEM is advertising through search engines. SEO is the process of making sure your website shows up on Google. We got a great lady for that. Social media display ads on Reddit, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. I would definitely add, YouTube's already there. Offline ads, so sports spots, radio, TV, billboards, magazine ads, flyers, local ads. These are things to just test at a very cheap level and see if any of them work, because nowadays things have changed. But sometimes, depending on your audience, like if you you'll want to for sure put Google Analytics attached to your website, because we track our Google Analytics, and I know that 75+% of our viewers are on their computer, their desktops. They're not using the mobile device. They're not using tablets. They're also using email. And they're up on Monday and Tuesday mornings, like from really 6 a.m. to like 10 a.m. So it's definitely older people. Or not older people, but those that are probably like capped around 45 to 65 maybe. And they have money, so they're looking to invest. So every audience is different, and that's why I said it's so important to test, because for us, maybe the billboards doesn't do anything, but for example, what we'll be doing something is postcards. Those tend, if we have people that are already subscribed to our audience that are asking for more information on a deal, an upcoming event, they will get that. Content marketing. Content for your company develops and gains awareness. So again, how people can get to know you. Blogs are a good example of this, making sure that you have someone doing your blogs. And again, Rocket Station can help with that. Email marketing, again, building that list and making sure that you're giving people a call to action, something to do, and something that every time you send a message, here's what's in it for you. They need to be clear on what to do. You have to tell them what to do. I'm serious. Like, people will do, there's so many studies I can't talk about right now, but that people will do what they're told. So if you give them what's in it for them and you tell them what to do, they will do it. But you have to have that in every message consistently all the time so that you'll get your results. Because maybe someone's like, this happens to us all the time. We send out like 10 emails. Someone sees all 10, the first 2, they get annoyed. The third one, they're like, okay, what does this actually say? And then the 6th one, they actually invest. So you just consistent, the same message. Engineering is marketing. What does that mean? It means microsites, widgets, like in your website from Google Chrome, free tools that have been engineered to be acquired by customers. Viral marketing, so growing your customer base by encouraging your customers to refer other customers, so referrals. Business development through strategic relationships, like an enterprise model for your company and your partners. Sales, creating processes, executing exchanging products for dollars. Affiliate programs, that's something we do a lot of. So essentially it's partnering up with other companies that offer something that is an auxiliary service to yours that would be beneficial to your customers, and figuring out a way to have a page or a website that's joint. We use our favorite that we use is Thrivecart for our affiliates, because they have affiliates, products, and courses. It's actually where this course content will be focused or posted on. So that's something that you can basically work together and have like a JV agreement split through that software. And so whenever you sell or they sell, then it automatically just splits the PayPal payment, and there's no AR AP on the back end, which is so annoying. So affiliate programs, we've had a lot of success with that. Existing platforms, so you're focusing on mega platforms. For us, that means Equities Trust Company was our biggest acquisition there, because they have like 50 billion in retirement accounts sitting in their company alone. And so they're letting us do webinars and seminars. They're letting us host our product on their online store that they have for investments. If you're looking for diversified investments, you'd find ours under their mission driven and crowdfunding investments. This was something where they've already built up their platform, and they have like 200,000 customers or more that we get to get in front of. So for this example, it's saying getting with Facebook, Twitter, app stores to get users to your product, trade shows, exhibition shows, offline events like meetups and conferences, speaking engagements. Does that convert for you? Because you always have to give them something to act on, like click here, come, text this number. Always, for example, if you're going to do that, text this number, use a Google number for your safety, and make sure that you're telling them the words to use. So in your mind, that would activate what you need to send them the link for next. So for example, if I'm saying at a presentation, text this number, the word ecosystem, the word fund, the word quiz, the word Women Who Invest Council, whatever it is that they're interested in, or I'm pitching at that event that they can then enroll in afterwards. So I'll have basically a bunch of text, and I have pre-saved links or URLs in my auto text in my phone. And then I'll just text them, like I'll just put in 3 letters, and it will just send them where to go. And from there, then they're in our funnel where they're filling out a quiz, they're giving us their contact information, they're being upsold or downsold depending on what they buy. So you just want it to be automated once you communicate with them for the first time or opt them in. And then community building. So creating passionate communities around your product. That's a really great thing to do on Facebook. You can create a community. So when I talked about know, like, and trust, these are the traction channels that you can use to be able to do that. Now, when you are testing these, I'll give you an example. Like, for example, if you want to test out online stuff, if you like SEO takes about 3 months for a good person to really start building it up. But if you're going to do like online ads and offline ads, so say if I want to focus on 13, I'm going to pick TV spots, radio commercials, billboards, newspapers, magazine ads, flyers, local advertisements. And then I'm going to say I have a $200 budget a month for all of these, and I'm going to do them in 1 month. This is just giving an example. You can do whatever you want, but I'm going to test these out this month. And so, but how do I quantify what to do or how to do this? So I'll give you an example. If you're doing this on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, anything like this, you have a set budget that you can run. And so, for example, a great use of my money has been Facebook Marketplace or Facebook ads, but it has to be a lead ad because in each situation, you essentially get connected to the actual lead. And then, with certain things, it'll either give you their phone number and email, or the other, you have to start interacting with them to get their phone number and email. But the point is those are very inexpensive ways to test. So what we also do if we're doing a Facebook ad, Google ad, YouTube ad, like if I'm doing 1 month of just all the digital ads, what I've done in the past is I've said, let's run, looking at my Google Analytics, again, that you have to add it into your header code. There's a code in Google Analytics. You add it into your header code on your website. Someone that, like I have an SEO girl, she can do this for you if it's too hard. But essentially that starts tracking your traffic, right? And the days and the number of clicks and what they're clicking on and referral links, like where people are coming from and when they're active. So that's when you know when to run this stuff and the type of people and the demographic of who you're getting. It's so important to pay attention to this. Don't just get an archetype in your mind of who you think this person is. Let the data show you who they are. You can have an idea, but you need to watch this inform, change it. So I have an app on my phone for Google Analytics where I'm looking at it every week to see what we need to change, or before I run an ad, knowing who am I running this to. So for example, if I'm testing all those online digital places, I will test all, say 5, 4, whatever it is, Monday through, so my hot days right now are Monday through Wednesday. The other days they're junk. So I'm going to run each of these for 4 days. So get it rolling on Sunday. And so it has a full day to start getting the algorithms in front of people. And then it will run Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And that's my hot days, right? So then we have it's scheduled to shut off at midnight before Thursday starts. And so essentially then I get a report I can go look at from these 5 places, and I can go look at, so like, for example, if I'm using a software like Buffer to post all of my posts that I'm testing, I actually usually do that first when it comes to those media sources that I already have that are mine. So for example, if I have Facebook marketplace pages, Facebook pages, if I have Facebook profiles, if I have Instagram profiles, if I have LinkedIn profile and two LinkedIn company profiles, those I already own those, and I can just basically post something out on them and I can test where it does the best. You can do this on Buffer, but that's free. So then you're not actually wasting any dollars doing this. So for me, we have 12 different media channels that are hooked up to Buffer. I'm just using that as an example. There's also other ones out there that just basically the idea here is you have one posting service that you as a human post one thing and you post it one time and it goes to all the different places at once. So then you do it and then you look at a report to figure out from there, okay, where did I get the most click-throughs? That's what I look at. I don't look at impressions. I don't look at all the other stuff. I want to know click-throughs. Like if I put something up, I gave people an action. Again, you always have to tell them what to do and give them a link to go to on the digital side. And then essentially once they read it, they go, oh, I like this. Okay, where to click. And then they go somewhere. Then at the end of that one day that I posted all those places, I can see where I got the most click-throughs. So they actually took the action to click and go to my website. Also, Google Analytics will confirm the same number, on its landing page. But the point is I like the software because I can compare how did it do everywhere. And then you want to pick your top number 1. If you have a tie, top number 2. So for me, I'll find that a graphic I put out with good copy goes well on my personal Facebook page and does well on my LinkedIn business page for Apartment Queen, right? So those are just for me giving you an example out of like posting it 17 places, 2 did the best. So then the next week, what I would do is I would say the next day, then I'd run a ad in each of those, Facebook, Twitter, Reddit, YouTube, LinkedIn for display ads. And I would use that graphic that did well. And I would specifically post it to those accounts that, again, got the click-throughs, put ad spend on it, and then put it just to those accounts instead of posting it everywhere. So Anyway, so you would, instead of posting like 17 ads, you'd post 2. And then again, do it on your hot days, cut it off after your hot days, look at the reports. And then again, what you're going to do is you're going to select your top number 1 that worked. So you're using your organic traffic to narrow down where do you get the most clicks. When you put something out that is about your mission, vision, values, and what you're passionate about, what you're giving people, again, you've given them an action and a link to click. And then once your organic traffic tells you what they want, then you can go to your paid sources, any of these 18, and then basically post the same content. If you want to, since you already know the 2 top performing accounts, you can run an A/B test and basically say, okay, I know that the image of the lady with the dark hair and the dark skin, she had natural hair and she did really well. Again, this is just data. You can't take offense to things. You just have to think about, like, what is your audience telling you? And then once you have the organic data, basically, then you can test out the paid versions. And then over time, so now this probably sounds like a lot of information. How do I track this? I'm going to put this template in the portal for you as well. So you have these traction channels, right? So your go-to-market strategy, that's essentially what I'm talking about right now. So then basically, once you have figured out via organic traffic, because you've tried you've tried all 18, and you can say, okay, organically, some of them are available only as paid. So I would use all the free ones possible first, like social medias are great. But essentially then you figure out, okay, what is doing the best organically? And even like I mentioned, if you have spent a little bit of money testing them. So when I do a Facebook ad, for example, or LinkedIn, I'm going to spend $10 a day. My hot days are 3 days a week. So I'm going to spend $30 and cut it off and be done. And then I'm going to go look at how it does. And then knowing the top one, then I'm going to pump up the spend a lot, because you now know what your return on investment is, or your customer acquisition cost. Well, you know your ROI, but you don't know your CAC or CAC till the end of the month, which is your customer acquisition cost. So basically, you're going to make sure that you are monitoring which strategies you want to test out first. And essentially, so this one is saying, okay, which ones do I want to do to test out that are online? Which ones do I want to do to create a wait list for my product launch? And then you have a traction objective. So whether it's a launch or a conference, or your online ads, or doing a pop-up booth, whatever your tactic is that you want to do, and then essentially you can advertise for that tactic. So your go-to-market strategy, you look at the channels available, you pick some, and then you basically test them. And like I just went through the whole bullseye method, but verbally earlier, where essentially you're saying, okay, I'm going to look at the traction channel that I'm using from the first tab there. And then I'm going to set up a way to do this. So if I'm doing, I mentioned the ads, display ads, if I'm just doing calls, for example, that's a way to reach out to people. That I want to see how it performed at the end of my week when I was doing 10 calls a week. And this is an example. Okay, I had 4 leads that were actually good leads. So they wanted my product. They asked for more information. They clicked the link. They did what I told them to do. And then how easy is this to scale and implement? So then basically you're going to test out ideally all 18 methods, but I would do the first top 5. And this actually gives you a legend here for how to rank your quality of leads, how to rank your ease of implementation of each of these tactics, the potential impact from 1 to 5, and then basically your rankings of each of these that you tested out, right? And so then you can see your total score at the very end here. And then you can visually see what's actually working for you and what's also easy to work for you. So right here, we can see that the top one in business development is creating partnerships with 10 companies in media that will give their communities access to our tools for free. So we give our tools for free, they give us media access. One example of those 18 traction tools. So in this example, that was performing the best after testing these for a week. So then you say, okay, great. Now I know the traction bullseye of getting partnerships. So then basically, then this is basically, it's actually the same thing. But what I would do with this sheet is essentially say, look at the traction channel I've chosen, which is referrals, which was business development with 10 companies. And then basically I'm putting all the different companies that I'm working with, reaching out to. What is the way that I'm reaching out to them? What is the service I'm giving them, exchanging with them? and then what over time with working with that one that seemed to perform the best, which one of that is working the best. So it's the same thing, but again, it's just bullseyeing it down. So you've identified the traction channels, you've identified the one that works the best for you, then you've identified of the people that do that with you, which of those people, in this example, it's working with other businesses. Other example would be which is the best platform like Facebook, etc., that's working for you. And then of your leads, of all of those different sources or that your partnerships, etc., that you're working with, what are the quality of leads? And then again, ease of implementation and the potential impact. And then you always want to look at cost. And so then you get your total score at the end here. This sheet also, I believe, turns green on its own whenever the total score is above or below a certain amount. And there's measurement framework as well here in this sheet. So what does that mean? Here, I'll open it. Oh, there you go. So this is an example of a quantitative based marketing spreadsheet. So if you tested out, TechCrunch, Mashable, Reddit, Dig, Google Ads, etc., and then you could see the traffic that you were getting from these sources, the click-through rate that we got from those sources, the conversion rate. So this one's really good. So that's where my eye goes. So I'm like, what's working? Total users, who cares? And then confirmed users. So basically you're getting the highest conversion of OK Dork in this example. And then you've got 225 users that are basically going to convert like it's 75%, which is great. So anyway, so that is how you can use what I just mentioned quantitatively. And then once you know that working with, I don't know, these 6 or 3 companies that are really actually returning the favor and it's working, because I reach out to people all the time and offer them and they say, yeah, and they don't do anything. So then you have the ones that are actually working. And then essentially that that your funnel is going to now take someone from this target or this channel that you're working with. So I've got my channel and I know my target market. I know my message to my market. I know the media to use. So for this example, it's this partnership. And then also the KPI. So how many of these people coming in from the target market is my goal. Middle of the funnel, lead capture system. So for example, we use a quiz. So it's once that partner or that other source brings you something, then you need to know, okay, so we're going to get like, I don't know, 150 leads a week. And then how do we capture that lead? So we do a form usually on our website. Or for example, when the other lead sends us something, that we never do a manual send. We always try to work something out where essentially it's on their website. And if they want to go to mine, there's a form that pops up and exits, and we get the automated, we get an email that gives us the information. The information, what I've done is I've parsed the information from by using Zapier. And so it parses the information and then it will put it into ActiveCampaign, my CRM, as a new lead, and it will keep the information. So basically I wanted to set everything up as automated as possible. So you send me that, here's buddy, like you got to tell your counterpart or your data source or wherever your leads are coming from, you got to show, teach, or connect where you want those leads to go. For us, it's to this form. We want everyone to drive to this form. Once they drive to the form, then it tags them as something. Then it in my CRM will actually segregate them based on their tag. And then the lead nurturing system, we have a incomplete, but we have a set of automated drip emails that go out depending via automation. Once you hit the ActiveCampaign column that you're in, we have certain automations that are appropriate for, certain columns, certain deal stages, certain deal amounts. We set the parameters our own way. And then essentially once they're being nurtured, then what is our sales conversion strategy? Here's the biggest thing that I've learned is that there's a way that we can use the rule of reciprocity. 100% of those people will convert. So if you have partnered, best source, gotten the lead, qualified the lead, brought the lead automatically into your system, and then you want to convert them. For us with investors, our conversion strategy has to be calling the investor. They want a personalized relationship and or inviting them to a lunch where we have a investor portfolio update. So those investors who are invested with us and those who are not yet invested with us can come to that. They really like that because they seem to always invest after that point. And then also they get to see other investors. Is this real? Do they actually we also give out checks at those lunches too, so that other investors that are new, they can see, man, I want it. I want that, So that's really a good strategy that we have used. Every other company is different with how they convert, but usually there's gonna have to be some, especially the higher the dollar value of what the person is spending with you, the higher it is. I would say when you're above, the rule is random, but when you're above a couple $100s, you likely, like getting the 1,000+ range, you're going to have a phone call. For us, we have investors that are investing 50,000, 100,000, 250,000. So we have an in-person lunch, and then, again, hand out checks to the other investors so that they have fear of missing out. That's been a good one for us. And then the bottom of the funnel, how do you deliver a world-class experience? We're always getting surveys and polling our audience and trying to figure out what we're not doing well, so that we can talk on a monthly call as a team. It's called our IDS, Issues, Decision, Solutions. We figure out how to do better at those things and figure out which role is responsible for doing that new thing that we need to do to take care of our investors. And then how do we, again, increase the lifetime value? So something that we're doing right now, like this, is we're taking this kind of information and we're sharing it with those investors, because everyone's got a business, whether you're in house flipping or whether you're in multifamily real estate or whether you're selling a product and doing a pop-up shop. These things, all of this still applies to you. So we're looking to give you more information from all of the courses and education that myself and my teammates have gotten exposed to, and then putting it in a library for our investors, whether it's going to help their business make more money and then they come spend their money with us, or whether it's they need more education to be financially stable enough to be able to invest with us. So either way, we're trying to add as much value as possible to our customers. And then we encourage referrals every time we close on an asset, every time we do a distribution check, every time the investor has a problem and we solve it. I can't get my tax document, I don't know where my distribution check is, whatever. Every time we solve it, because they're happy right in that moment, I ask them just simply to email me back, what did you like the best about how we solved this problem or working with us, something like that. So that's how we do that. You grab that, and that is so key. You have to ask every time the investor feels something good for that referral. If I'm at my meetups or whatever, and they win a prize, we always do prizes once a month. And then when they win one, I will take a picture of them. I will ask them to talk about what they like about the business right then and record them. Those testimonials are how you're going to get more business, period. So you've got to get that footage. That is how we encourage referrals, by having information from written statements and email that we have permission to share online, or recorded statements that we have permission to share, or pictures of our investors, together, or with products, or with checks, or etc., so that other investors know that it works, right? So really, that is what I'm going to cover right now for scaling today. I know that I've probably gone on for 2 hours, but essentially these tools will be available to you. And not only will these tools be available to you, but of course, we're going to be offering our investors the ability, our cash flow queens that are in our new portal system, whether it's a course that you're interested in, which is just all this information, or whether it's personal coaching. We do offer those things. And so coaching and courses are what we're doing as a value add for our investors, plus obviously giving them opportunities to invest in, and a strong network of other women who are also investing in many other assets, so that they can invest together and then get real data on what's working in the market and what's not. So I believe that we have an incredible value that we're giving women. Plus right now we're working on adding a team of lawyers and a team of accountants and other investment professionals that we have to have with our back in mind, that have only treated me ethically, and that also will do a little bit of pro bono work if we have to fight, someone that is abusing one of our members. So we have incredible amounts of information and value to give you. And these tools, like I said, will be in the portal. So we look forward to seeing you on our next weekly talk about strategy, business, multifamily real estate, and basically pulling everything out of here that's going to help you succeed in business. See you soon.